the wisdom of science. I think that Brian Swimme, to some extent, represents a turning point in science, when science becomes a wisdom. I think that's something to think about. Science, I think, is beginning to feel its responsibility. Science is, I think, to some extent, like all the professions, has its share of being irresponsible. And our technology people and so forth. Right now, there's a certain irresponsibility on the part of genetic engineering. But it's a difficult thing, but I think that science has the possibility of becoming wisdom. Now, one of the steps toward that, I think, was taken a year or two ago in Chicago when the American Association for the Advancement of Science, which is such an ancient and prestigious scientific organization, had the conference on the epic of evolution. I think this idea of the universe story, or the universe, the evolutionary process having a story aspect, that it is, this brings it somewhat into the reach of the mythic dimension of science. And it offers a context of thought, it seems to me, that has possibilities. Because where science has talked about the universe, you get a book like Cosmos of Carl Sagan, where he writes about the universe and very extensively about how we came to know the story, the universe, but it doesn't tell the story of the universe. As far as I know, and that's very limited, but when Brian Swimme and I wrote the universe story, it was a kind of, I think it had a touch of something that hadn't been done before. People had written about the universe, but the scientists had not told the story of the universe in a way. There's a couple other books that have come out that begin to tell the story of the universe also. But that this should become a significant context of science dealing with itself, I think, has a certain importance. So this is one thing of science becoming a wisdom, and also the sense of seeing the evolutionary process as narrative. As soon as it comes in the context of narrative, there begins to take shape a certain meaningful context and a way of looking at it that has never existed since the modern scientific venture started. It's been very fragmented. And out of it, a story is only beginning to emerge. It is definitely something new. Sister Gail is a very amazing person. I've known her for 10, 12 years, and of certain sense of provided her with the book she needed to learn about and so forth. But ever since she went to the monastery, she's a beautiful young lady and quite young, very intelligent, and with energy and ideas, and I wondered whether she would stay in the monastery or not, and whether she would take what are called the permanent vows, to have temporary vows for a few years and then take vows of permanency. So I was wondering what she would do. And so she took permanent vows in the monastery. And so I was there. She asked me to preside at the ceremony, and generally with the procession, you have somebody carrying the cross or carrying the Gospels, leading a procession in with the ritual and all that. She had the person carry a picture of the planet Earth, and she pictured the planet Earth and led the procession in and put it on the altar. Instead of the cross, or instead of the gospel, or whatever. So you would feel that something new was happening. And then she, after the ceremony, she went out and changed her garb and came out. She had been trained in ballet and did a dance in Thanksgiving. And that year she had also gone to university, got her master's degree in clinical psychology and so forth. And in the process, she had dug up the convent yard and plenty garden. She had built several straw bale houses for retreats. She had invited a number of other nuns from different orders and gave retreats under the title of Women Who Run with the Wolves. So then they got together. They've been meeting every couple of years since as Sisters of Earth. Sisters of Earth. And I was asked by the general superiors of women's religious orders in Rome. They have a council, and they have a bulletin that they send out in 6 different languages to convents all over the world on religious women as the voice of the earth. So the men are kind of useless in this regard, but the women's group are more or less bound. Traditionally, they have been more bound, I suppose you might say, but at any rate, they're thinking, they're acting. And right now, Sister Gail began to realize that she couldn't really do very much where she was, that she would have to found something herself, so that she thought about it, looked around, decided Vermont was the place where the people were most acquainted or most willing to deal with the human-earth relation. And so she decided to go there and get some land. She would like to have several hundred acres if she could get it. She would like to found a center, something along the line of Sister Miriam Therese's place of community-supported agriculture, but to establish something, she calls it ecozoic monastery, a monastery integral with the functioning of the planet Earth. She still doesn't have the land that she would like to have, but she knows how to go around things. She set up her her advisory group. She set up her financial group. She's gotten people that would financially be interested in what the possibilities are along these lines. And somebody that has the leadership ability and the inventiveness and the daring or the courage to do things. So this is one of the relatively, I wouldn't say relative few things that are being done in a religious context. On the whole, there are some possibilities, like the bishops out in the state of Washington who are going to put out a document on the Columbia River and its significance and the human project and in its deeper religious, as regards to religious project. So every once in a while, people do something significant, like the bishops of the Philippines put out a wonderful thing, and a lot has been done in the Philippines. I have done a certain amount in Mindanao with the Tabali people. But the whole project religiously is, on the larger scale, is not very promising, you might say. But there are some things being done.
We may then at least hope for the redemption of religions that emphasize redemption too much.
Well, we could. I'm doing a book now on the cosmology of religion, which, to go back to, I think we need the cosmology of economics, the cosmology of law. I think that's one of the most important, because we call ourselves a people of law. But our law is seriously flawed in its very basic elements. It's not a viable jurisprudence. We don't have in our Western civilization what I would consider viable jurisprudence. And so it goes back to the question, and it's only recently that I've articulated some thoughts as regards this idea that the universe is self-referent within the phenomenal order. A person say, well, is the phenomenal world self-explanatory? Well, that's a different question. Or a person wants to go into the religious angle of it as regards further transphenomenal experience, that's something else. But within the phenomenal order, the universe is the basic referent. It's not the human. And when St. Thomas says that the universe is the ultimate and noblest perfection in things, that's a serious statement. When it says the whole universe together participates and manifests the divine more than any single being whatsoever, all of this is indication that a valid interpretation of Christian tradition requires that if there is what we consider as incarnation and redemption, it's not primarily for the human. It can be immediately for the human, but primarily it has to be for the universe. It has to be for that there's something happened to the universe in whatever situation there is of the human that might need to be improved. But to give an interpretation of religion in terms of the primacy of the universe. That's absolute. That's why. But the Bible itself says, and St. Thomas gets his ideas on this from Genesis. After each day, God says, it's good. After the last day, and he says, it's very good. Now, that it might seem to be to hinge everything on that one little word, very good. But that shifts the whole emphasis on the idea from the particular thing to the overview, that the whole thing was that was what the Creator was after, not the individual part, but the whole. So that this, and then to think that if this is the significant thing, then all this confining of our religious thinking to the human order doesn't make sense. So I think we may be on the verge when something could happen along this line, but I wouldn't guarantee it'll happen today or tomorrow.